Hello, everyone. Hope you can bear with me a little bit today. I might have a bit of a hoarse voice. I seem to have acquired some sort of mummy rot or some other deep, dark, nefarious black plague. Normally, my natural healer wife, who's a subclass ranger, keeps me pretty healthy, so whatever this is, it might be really bad. But I'm doing my best to fight it off. And if you see a couple edits in the video here that you normally don't see, I might have had an alien chest burster or something come out, and I'll kind of have to edit that out. Today I want to hand a little propaganda out there for me. I want to talk about something that I do, and I'd like for you guys to do, and that's build your own fantasy adventures, or sci-fi adventures, or superhero adventures, or whatever other types of adventures you guys run. It's kind of what I do. A lot of people have been asking me lately what I think of certain modules. They would say, hey, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? And I kind of have to respond, I never read it. Don't know anything about it. Yeah, maybe played it. Maybe Matt ran it. Maybe Craig ran it. So then I know about it. But for the most part, I've run all my own content, and I don't run programmed adventures. I have a little bit. I did for the Living Greyhawk 3.5 D&D system. I got certified as an official dungeon master. That way, when Steve and I would go to the conventions, if they were short a game master, I say, well, gee, I can always run. I tried to avoid running. The reason is, kind of as I'll even point out in the video, if I run modules, I tended to get people killed because I run things kind of smart. I try to run them pretty aggressive. And if you're not used to that, it can be a toll on the party. I think that the modules they make nowadays are really great. I never use them because, frankly, we didn't have them back in the 70s. If you wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, somebody had to create an adventure from whole cloth. And that somebody usually, for my group, was me. I liked some adventures, the written ones when they came out. But the problem was, being a starving college student, I didn't want to spend the money on adventures. I wanted to buy miniatures. I wanted to buy paints and brushes. I wanted to buy extra rule books. I wanted to take my girlfriend out to the movies. All the things you do when you're trying to scrape around on a limited budget. So because I had a relatively fruitful mind, I would just keep writing adventures, and everyone seemed to like them, so it was all great. What I did buy into very early on was campaign settings. This is Iron Crown's The Mines of Moria for their Chartmaster, Middle-earth role-playing game system. This is the one you might have heard me mention that Steve and I played. We played this for over a year. One book, almost every week. We never really got out of Moria. Fourth Age, it was really great. It's a great background. I love background books. I have all the source books for Greyhawk. I have the source books for Forgotten Realms. I have the source book for a lot of the stuff they do in 4th edition and into 5th edition. And I have some of the other sets that are skipping my mind right now. But I like those backgrounds. I like Tekkamil. There's a bunch I like. In fact, if anyone here in Southern California is playing or going to start a Tekkamil campaign, let me know. I would love to play Tekkamil. I have game mastered it. The problem is it is a dyslexic's nightmare with the 47 syllable words that they use. And that makes it a little tougher for me. But I sure enjoy the color and I sure enjoy playing it. Preferably waiting for Jeff D's Atlas to come for me that he just did on his rebang of Tekkamil. And when that comes out, I'll more likely start talking about Tekkamil a little bit more because I really, really liked it. But to stay back on point here, if I can, which I usually can't, the advantage of running your own modules and running your own adventures is really a benefit for everyone involved. Yourself, because I think you add more creativity and your knowledge on the gaming will grow much faster than if you use program adventures. They go smooth and fast because you pretty much know everything what's in your adventure. It's in your mind. So you don't have to read the little pages and see what the stone looks like, what the doors look like. You'll already know that. You'll have that all written out, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it smells like, what they hear, what they feel, what the area around it is. All this can come out of your mind. So you just have to have it there, and there doesn't have to be a million words. The other thing, too, is you can personalize the drama. The thing I mean about that is a lot of times when you're writing modules, you're going from point A to point B, and there's a story being told by the designer of the module, but it might not necessarily be that hooked into what the characters are going to want to do. But when you're writing your own adventures, you can tailor them to write to certain characters. If they have a priest of a certain class, if they have a druid, or if they have a special ranger, or anything they might have, you can tailor your adventure to suit their character so they get really engrossed and into the game. The other problem I have with adventures, and it's not really a big problem, but they don't know how good your players are, how new they are to the game, how savvy they are to the game. Do they know anything about role-playing? Do they use miniatures? Have they gamed it all before? And you'll know that as a game master. So you don't need to have a super complicated game for people who are playing their absolute first game. You can dial it down and play it so they enjoy the game, they get hooked in, and then you can add more onto the game as the game evolves. The thing also is when you're using a programmed adventure, which I think a lot of you are doing, and rightly should, and using a campaign setting, which I also think is excellent, add a little of your own either encounter or adventure into that programmed adventure. When you're running it, and you find a little space there, throw a little extra thing, maybe a giant trapdoor spider. And then there's another battle for experience and gold. And when they kill him, they find the dead body of a paladin. And there's a magic sword, which they get. So you can, give out some nice items. And then there's a scroll. And the scroll is commanding this paladin to rescue a maiden, inform some patriarch of an evil invasion of some enemy army, something else that suddenly hooks the players into running an adventure of your own. And now you have an excuse to run an adventure. You can run little sub things within the game. You can run any extra encounters, generate some extra wandering monsters. All of those could have, a treasure map or something on them maybe. And the treasure map could give them information about the programmed adventure they're playing. All those things are beneficial to you. The other thing is it puts your stamp on the game. The games become more yours and not just a generic, you open the door, you read the caption, they fight the monsters, they pick up the treasure, and they move on to the next adventure. Now they're not sure. Okay, it's a programmed adventure. It's meant for us to beat it. But we don't know whether maybe old Jim has thrown a boulet in there, and we need to be more careful about our gameplay. All of that makes it more fun, I think, for you, and makes it more fun for the gamers, your players, their characters. The other thing to always think about when you're building your own adventures is keep it really simple. The biggest mistakes I've seen most game masters ever make, or even seasoned ones, but for sure novice ones, is they go overboard. They literally write the preamble of a whole book, and they're giving you all this detail. And something that I found, something I know Matt's found, and I'm sure a lot of you who have DM'd before have found, a lot of times your gamers are having enough trouble just figuring out how the rules work, what their character does, what these weird dice do, and they're not so sure about what the storyline you're giving them is. They kind of listen because they're polite, and it goes in one ear and out the other, and they've long since forgot about it. So 3 modules down the road, when suddenly you pop up a big surprise that you've been leading to this whole time, they don't know what you're talking about. So I often tell people when you're getting a first adventure, do something, just a very small adventure. Don't worry about the big picture. Do your first adventure. A great thing to do is look at Matt Coville's. He did a little Goblin adventure on how to get started. It's really good. It's a really great starting adventure. It's kind of like that, please, mister, somebody stole my pig. Would you go save him? But it's simple and it's small. And an adventure doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out underground. Normally, if you do that, you drag out many, many of your hours wandering through empty and worthless halls and rooms, and you can give them some nice backstory. But if you do that, you stretch out your evening, and you may run out of time. So make it quick, make it concise. The players will enjoy it a lot more, and you'll get to the point. Normally, 1 to 4 encounters is usually an adventure. Could be less. You try to keep the level early on easier, but as the characters become more advanced, you can tailor it to make them substantially more difficult. And since you're not necessarily always worried about the levels of the characters, you can do different things. Like in my recent Albion game with my group, the PAD group, I decided I wanted to do something. They were camping out and I had a random encounter for them of 2 displacer beasts, which is way over their power level. And they encounter them, they come out to fight them, and, quite soon in the battle, Craig comes to the idea that, I might have to stay here and die while you guys run. But what they didn't know, and what I had put into it, is they're a mated pair, and they have little kits at home. And they can't die. They're just out looking for a quick kill to grab food, take it back for the babies, and that's it. So the minute you bloody one of them, or in 5th edition, basically the minute one of them takes half damage, they're leaving. They're not going to stay and fight. If they haven't killed anybody or they haven't, be able to haul the carcass off, they're not going to stand and fight. They're not going to fight to the death. And that's a thing that a lot of times people do with modules that really alerted my group when I started running my games, is that nothing fights to the end. My first encounter with one of the guys, with Matt, I think, and his group, they ran into a bunch of goblins, and they started beating the goblins, and all of a sudden the goblins are running away. And Dave Miles goes, well, why are they running away? If they run away, we get full experience for them. And I said, yeah, you do. And then it was like, and suddenly Matt goes, oh, they're going to get help. Now, they weren't going to get help. They were just running away because they have little goblin lives and aspirations and dreams and little goblin wives and kids at home. They just don't want to die. But this is something that the players don't know and they don't expect. So you've thrown a monkey wrench into the standard, open the door, kill the monsters to the last one, grab the treasure, move on. Now there's something else going. Are they running away to get help? Are they running away and then they'll come back later? And that often leads to something like a Bogan Redcap type character like I had, who ran away and then haunted the characters for the next 3 years. And more likely 10 years once I ran them in different game systems. But it's always something good to have, a little change up in the game. So, you know what? Buy all the books you can. They're always great. They're getting better every year, and some of the stuff, the art and everything will inspire you. Get the modules, read fantasy novels. Those also help. The more you get involved, the more you get enmeshed in it, I think you can make better and better adventures on your own. And you add them with programmed adventures, and you can have yourself a very full and very large campaign. But until we meet again, fight me, devils, fight, for I have peace. Game on.